let's say this is side x and that's side x. What is this side? This is the same face. What would that be? So units. X
times the square root of 2.
Square root of 2. Right, this is 45, 45, 90. So x square root of 2. But now they'll ask you what is, like if you draw the line from this vertex to that vertex, like the long diagonal, right? Not just the face diagonal, the cube diagonal. They'll ask you what that is. And if you know how to do that. No? So this requires the the drawing capability is much better. Like it requires a much better drawing capability from me, but also requires a good imagining capability from you. I wish I had a cube. You think about a cube. If you take a cross section,
it helps to know the Pythagorean theorem works in 3 dimensions.
Yeah,
right.
Same
to know
thing.
that. So,
now looking from different.
Right. So now, I mean, okay. So what I'm trying to say is that okay, you have this diagonal, which you know is x squared of 2. That is actually going to be the base of this triangle. If you draw a triangle, it's this edge, which is x, this diagonal, which is x squared of 2, and then this long diagonal, which you're trying to solve for, that's actually a triangle. If you draw it out, that's x squared of 2, and then what you're trying to solve for.
So
I just wanted to try picturing that, right? You, again, have a cube. If we draw a diagonal here, it's this and that form a right angle. See that? Like a cube, anything forms a right angle at that intersection. So this is a triangle. And you're trying to solve for this, and you know that's x squared of 2. So what is the left side?
3x squared.
3x squared, and then square root of that, right? So square root of 3x. So I mean, this is something you could just remember. It's x squared of 2, x squared of 3. That's what a cube triangle is. This is similar in that you have this pyramid. It has a height h and square base m, which is important because you know they'll throw in these kind of things where even though the figure is not drawn on a scale, they'll tell you it's a square base. In which case you should automatically see that and know that means it's 90 degrees each side. The 4 edges meet at V. The vertex of the pyramid each have a length e. If e equals m, what is the value of h in terms of m? So they're just being mean. They're trying to say they added an e in there. There's no reason they should have done that. You glance at the choices. You see that all the choices are in terms of m, right? So forget e. Everywhere you see an e, put an m because they're interchangeable. They could have said e is 2m, in which case still get rid of the e. Just go with the 2m. Do you see that? Like sometimes you can glance at the choices and see that it's all in terms of one variable. So just don't mess around with the other variable if you can substitute it out. So now you have. I mean, do you want to try using what I just explained in terms of 3D visualization to on your paper? Try solving how to use the Pythagorean theorem, 3-dimensional, or again applied a couple of times to solve that. Just start trying it on your own paper, and then I'll draw it up real quick and we'll solve it together. Here's one quick question is, if you just look at the triangular face, what type of triangle is that? Is that isosceles or? Okay, you think so.
I think.
But then they tell you it's M.
Oh yeah, so it's equilateral.
Right, each of those are the same. That's one thing you should look at. You should try to look at first, right? It said this is E and this is M, but they say E equals M. They give you that right there. So forget the E, just make it an M, and now you have a triangle where it's M, M, and M. Right? So that's one giveaway right there first. The thing is, somehow you want to relate M and H, and right now they're kind of far apart. You know, first of all, is M smaller than H or bigger than H?
Bigger.
Bigger, right? This makes sense because M looks longer. It's the hypotenuse of H. So if you want to make, how would you relate them using triangles?
Just draw a triangle from the
From, tell me, like, from here, for example.
From there, yeah, to the middle.
To H,
Yeah.
right? And you got a triangle. You see that? You see that triangle? Right? But now, so now you have an M, you have an H. What is that? That's what you don't know.
That's right.
What is that?
That's where all these square roots.
It's 1/2 m square root of 2.
Yeah.
Right. So it's the over thing would be m squared root of 2, the whole thing. So you know that this part is half of that, half m squared root of 2. So you have half m squared root of 2, m, and h. That's your triangle. Just redraw it if it's getting kind of complicated looking. That's h, m, n squared root of 2 over 2. Do you see? I mean, again, like some of this stuff. Again, these are the last few problems. If these are the only ones you're missing, you're still scoring really well. But I urge you to try solving these ones, because again, if this appears again, you should automatically be able to do Pythagorean theorem a couple times. That's all it takes. So what is h?
M square root of 2 over 2. Is it? No.
Well, that,
Yeah,
yes,
well,
yes, but it
square
can be
root.
simplified.
Yeah. So you have m squared equals h squared plus 2m squared over 4. Alright, so then you subtract, I'm just, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So then you get m squared over 2 equals a squared, and you get h equals m over square root of 2. What is something over the square root of 2? How would you write that? If I wrote m over the square root of 2, is that one of the choices?
2
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
the square root of 2.
Oh, it is one of the choices, so it's easy. Yeah.
2 over square root of 2 over square root of 2.
Right, so a way to simplify that is you multiply by square root of 2 over 2, and you get m square root of 2 over 2. This is trigonometry, a lot of this stuff. But they give you answer choice A, and that should pop out. And that makes sense, right? Because we said h will be smaller than m, meaning it couldn't be, if you had to guess, it couldn't be square root of 3 over 2. It's bigger than m. It couldn't be equal to m. It couldn't be 2m over square root of 3 because you know that's bigger than m. And it couldn't be m squared root of 2. That's bigger than m. So if you just use the choices itself and just knew the fact that m will be bigger than h, only answer A survives. Okay? So sometimes just use your reasoning skills to try approaching a problem a different way. But again, by the time you take it in October, I don't want you to have to use the reasoning skills. I think by that time, like, this kind of question will come easy.
The biggest hint for me on one like this is just that it looks like a three-dimensional problem, but it doesn't seem that they want to test you on three-dimensional geometry. They want to test you on two-dimensional geometry. So if you see this, look for the planes in it and what you can tell about the individual planes, and it'll fall apart.
Exactly. That's good advice. So, SAT, again, only covers up to, like, barely trigonometry. There's maybe a sine or a cosine on there, but not really. And I think most of you have taken up to pre-calc, right? Yeah? No? Right?
That's next year.
Okay, so by next year you'll be fine, but even with your Algebra 2, you'll be fine. Did anybody miss number 20? Was 20 an issue?
I missed it, but I really crushed him, and I just made it.
These word problems are very
Yeah.
tricky. They can be tricky. Real quick, if you just look at 20, I just want to give you a strategy. It's a word problem, right? Each sentence means something, right? So, well, sometimes they throw in a sentence that means nothing that you don't need to worry about. But it says a salesperson commission is K% of the selling price of a car. Which of the following represents the commission in dollars on 2 cars that sold for $14,000 each? There's a lot of variables there. There's money, there's a dollar sign, there's 2 cars. So what do you do? 2 ways. One is if you don't want to cover up multiple choice, you just make it a really easy problem and say, let's just say K is 10%, right? 10% is easy, because what's 10% of like $280? 28. Like everyone knows 10%. So automatically you write on your paper, you write K equals 10. And then you say, okay, there's 2 cars, $14,000 each. What is this, like what's the answer if K is 10? What would that answer be? 2,800, right? Because the total was 28,000, and he made 10% off that, so it's 2,800. So then you just know that, okay, one of these, if I put 10 in for K, will become 2,800. Which one would that be? A, right? The only problem with this strategy is that sometimes 2 of them come up with the same answer, in which case you have to repeat and try again and again. Sometimes it's just going to keep happening until you just have to guess or something. I took the GMAT. The GMAT is kind of like that. The GMAT has harder problems that have a lot of problems like this. And the thing about the GMAT that's so frustrating is that it's a computer-based test. So every additional question that you take, GMAT is for business school admissions. Every question you get right, the next question is going to be harder and harder and harder until they break you, until you miss the question, and then they go down the step again. So by the end, some of these questions were really tough. But so that's one strategy, and I recommend that by this point, because at this point you're running out of time. Maybe try it, just plug it in, right? Or it's a word problem, right? So what is K% automatically? You know you don't multiply anything like by percent. So for example, if I said, what is 10% of $150? What is that? 15, right? So you didn't do 10 times 150, right? You did 0.1. How'd you get 0.1 from 10? Divided by 100, that's what a percent is. So the percent should automatically be replaced by over 100, automatically. So 10 over 100, so you know it should be K over 100, automatically. So you know K over 100 should be multiplied by 2 cars that sold for $14,000. So then you just write that out, you write 2 cars, you can do dimensional analysis of this thing too if you want. 2 cars and 1 car was $14,000. And at the end you want how much dollars you had in commission. So you know the cars cancel, and now it's going to be 2 times 14,000 is $28,000 total. But then you have some sort of commission here, and it's not going to be 10. It's going to be 10 over 100. Right. So that's 1/10 of that. So you get 2,800. I used K. 280 K is what you get. That's it.